Debenhams is set to quit the high street after a failing buy from JD Sports. Debenhams has also collapsed the same time when the Arcadia Group collapsed yesterday. We will be live here on Joe's Bus Train Plane Adventures. As you probably heard, Debenhams is set to close all the remaining stores, and this is going to be a big blow for the high street, as Debenhams will be vanishing its iconic name for good. The store has been reporting financial losses throughout the 2010s, and of course JD Sports had failed to buy the company. And of course all the Debenhams stores which are set to close, meaning it will leave a huge gap on all these high streets. ITV News business editor Joel Hills reports.
At Debenhams' flagship store in London this morning, they were preparing for the end of lockdown. New recruits were being ushered in for the big reopening, as word was spreading that the company is set to close down.
I've been on payroll for like 9 months, and today's my first day after 9 months. I really have to go because they're calling me.
Debenhams has been in administration since April and up for sale since July, but there are no takers and the company will now enter liquidation. In a statement, FRP Advisory, the administrator, said the decision to move forward with a closure programme has been carefully assessed, and while we remain hopeful that alternative proposals for the business may yet be received, we deeply regret that circumstances force us to commence this course of action. JD Sports has been in talks to buy Debenhams for the last few weeks, but the company has no experience of running. JD Sports has been in talks to buy Debenhams for the last few weeks, but the company has no experience of running a department store chain, and some of its shareholders hated the idea. This morning, JD Sports withdrew, and Debenhams ran out of options. Once upon a time, Debenhams department stores were a license to print money. These were the January sales in 1981. In more recent years, though, the company's failed to move with the times. Money has moved online. This is Debenhams in Canterbury, or at least it was. It's one of 40 Debenhams that have closed in the last 18 months. Layla Hassan was made redundant from the store in Manchester in August. She's still unemployed.
We were told to go to the government for redundancy pay, and we were just given 3 days' notice. And I think that big companies think they can get away with treating people like this because, you know, the government doesn't really care. And it's all about maximising profit.
At least 8,000 people have been made redundant by Debenhams so far this year. There will be another 12,000 redundancies when the process of liquidation ends. Yesterday, Arcadia filed for administration, putting 13,000 jobs at risk. The Centre for Retail Research calculates that 140,000 jobs have gone in retail to date in 2020. It predicts that will rise to 235,000 by the end of this month. Sir Ian Cheshire was chairman of Debenhams from April 2016 until January last year. I asked him when he realised the business was in trouble.
Well, the day I walked in, I thought it was going to be a turnaround, and I knew it was, you know, it had big debts and long leases. I think the thing that became clear quite quickly is that there was a great business, 70 stores and the website would have been a very viable business. But what became clearer after about 12 months was that we couldn't get the landlords to basically take back the 120 stores you don't need.
From tomorrow at Debenhams, it's a case of everything must go. But the harsh reality is that when everything does, there won't be much of a business left. Joel Hills, ITV News.
So then we're now going to hand over to Stacey Foster, who was reporting outside the small Debenhams store in Nuneaton.
Well, this store is due to reopen tomorrow as the lockdown eases across England, and staff have been working inside today preparing the store for that reopening, but they just don't know for how long they will be open for. This store has managed to dodge and resist closure since we found out about the struggles of Debenhams back in April. It's managed to remain open. But it's crucial for a town centre like this, a small market town that is proud to have a flagship store here. It's very, very useful for smaller businesses that rely on the footfall footfall that Debenhams brings into the town centre, but tragically it's already lost Marks and Spencer's in this town, it's already lost its VHS store in recent years as well, and that has a huge impact. So tonight people are really worried here that if Debenhams goes, who's going to be in this big retail unit in the future? But also what will happen to footfall here, and that will ultimately affect the smaller businesses in small town centres like this.
Yeah, Stacey and Nuneaton, thank you. And
So then that was Stacey outside Debenhams in Nuneaton. Now let's do a recap of all the Debenhams stores that closed during the first lockdown and just before this big administration happened. Debenhams closed stores in all areas across the West Midlands. This included Wolverhampton's Manda Centre at the start of the year, which will become Fraser's, and of course they had a store closure in Birmingham's Fort Shopping Park, and even the big one in Birmingham's Bullring Shopping Centre, and also the small one in Kidderminster Town Centre, the Weavers Wharf Shopping Park that only opened in 2009. Now, as you probably know, Debenhams has been in very financial trouble over the years. So now let's take a look what Joel Hills is having to say.
Let's talk about Debenhams first, maybe, because it's limped on from one crisis to another and one insolvency process to the other for the last 18 months. I think the liquidation process will play itself out. Everything will be sold off. There will be a taker for the online business. There will be a taker potentially for some of the department stores. I imagine the brand will survive, but the business is not. It's going to be a tiny fraction of its size. The bigger picture, though, does look very bleak. A process that began with the birth of the internet has been casualties. Retail, though, is not dead. Not everyone is failing. B&Q, Serene Cheshire's old company, and Next are actually thriving. We'll keep shopping. The way we spend money is changing. Companies have to adjust, and there will be this painful process of upheaval. I'm afraid thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs will be lost. And there'll be a period of time before the people who lose those jobs find other sorts of employment.
yeah, really grim. Joel, thank you.
And that's it about right now. Thank you very much for watching us on Joe's Bus Train Plan Lift Adventures on the last day of the lockdown. As you probably know, we're now moving into tier systems. So from tomorrow, Dudley's in tier 3. So only travel when essentially. Thank you very much for watching.